Deep in the forests of Appalachia, people are quietly making thousands of dollars, not from mining, not from oil, from a plant that looks completely ordinary. A single pound of this root can sell for over $1,000. A single wild root, decades old, has sold at auction for $3,000. And here is the part that will shock you. It is illegal to just walk into the woods and take it. The United States government tracks every ounce that leaves the country. China cannot get enough of it. And the people who know where to find it, they do not tell anyone. This is Wild American Ginseng. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why it is one of the most valuable plants on the planet, where it hides, and how people are turning it into serious income, completely legally. Stay with me, because the story of this root is stranger and more fascinating than you think. Wild American Ginseng goes by the scientific name Panax quinquefolius. That first word, Panax, comes from the Greek word for all healing. The ancient world believed ginseng could cure almost anything, and that belief, stretching back thousands of years, is a massive part of why this plant is worth so much money today. It grows slowly. That is the first thing you need to understand. A wild ginseng root takes between 5 and 10 years just to reach a harvestable size. Some roots found in remote Appalachian hollows are 30, 40, even 50 years old. The older the root, the more twisted and human-shaped it becomes, and the higher the price it commands on the global market. The plant itself is unassuming. It grows to about 20 inches tall. It has compound leaves arranged in groups of 5. In late summer, it produces a cluster of bright red berries at its center. Those berries are one of the main ways hunters identify it. But you need to know what you are looking for, because ginseng can blend into the forest floor like it is trying to hide from you. And in many ways, it is. The history of wild American ginseng and global trade is one of the most dramatic stories in botanical history, and it begins with a French Jesuit priest named Joseph-François Lafitau. In 1716, Lafitau was living among the Mohawk people in what is now Canada. He had read reports of a miraculous healing root used in China and Korea, a root so valuable that emperors reserved it for themselves. He noticed that the indigenous people of North America used a very similar plant for very similar purposes. He collected samples, sent them to China, and the Chinese confirmed it. This American root was a close relative of their prized Asian ginseng, and it worked. Within a decade, American ginseng became one of the most profitable exports from the New World. Daniel Boone, the famous American frontiersman, was not just exploring. He was trafficking ginseng. He made the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars moving ginseng from Appalachia to markets on the East Coast. He lost an entire shipment in a river accident and nearly went bankrupt because of it. The trade exploded. Entire communities in rural Appalachia built their economies around sang hunting, the local term for searching for ginseng. It funded farms. It sent children to school. It kept families alive through hard winters. And that tradition has never completely stopped. So why does wild American ginseng command such extraordinary prices in 2024 and 2025? There are 3 reasons, and each one drives the price higher than the last. The first reason is scarcity. 200 years of harvesting in American forests, combined with habitat loss and deforestation, have made truly wild ginseng incredibly rare. You can buy cultivated ginseng for $15 to $30 a pound. But the wild root, the one that spent a decade drinking from mountain springs and growing through rocky soil, that sells for $500 to over $1,000 per pound when dry, the market treats them as completely different products. The second reason is demand from China. Traditional Chinese medicine has used ginseng as a premier tonic herb for over 2,000 years. It is used to support energy, mental clarity, immune function, and longevity. In China, Wild American Ginseng carries massive prestige precisely because it is foreign, rare, and difficult to obtain. Chinese buyers pay a premium for it that domestic cultivated ginseng simply cannot match. The United States exports millions of dollars of wild ginseng annually, almost entirely to Hong Kong and China. The third reason is legal restriction. Because wild ginseng is a protected species under CITES, the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species, every single ounce that crosses an international border must be certified and documented. This creates a controlled supply with a guaranteed premium. Legal, certified wild American ginseng is a luxury product in every sense of the word. And luxury products command luxury prices. Wild American ginseng grows in a very specific band of North America, primarily in the Appalachian mountain range, stretching from northern Georgia up through the Carolinas, Virginia, West Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and into New York and New England. It also grows in parts of the Midwest, including Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, but it does not grow just anywhere in these states. Ginseng is an expert at hiding in exactly the right microhabitat. It prefers north and east-facing slopes, the shaded sides of hills and hollows, where direct sunlight is limited. It loves rich, moist, well-drained forest soil. It grows best near large, mature hardwood trees, particularly tulip poplar, sugar maple, and basswood. Experienced sang hunters look for companion plants as clues. If you find bloodroot, black cohosh, trillium, golden seal, or wild ginger in an area, ginseng is very likely growing nearby. These plants share the same habitat preferences. Learning them is like learning to read the forest's secret language. Elevation matters too. Ginseng thrives between 1,000 and 3,000 feet of elevation. Too low and the soil is too warm and wet. Too high and the growing season is too short for the plant to accumulate the compounds that make it valuable. Here is where things get serious and where a lot of beginners make career-ending mistakes. Wild American ginseng is a regulated plant in every state where it grows. That regulation is not optional, and it is not a technicality. Violations carry heavy fines and can result in criminal charges. Every state has its own set of rules. In most Appalachian states, there is a defined harvest season, typically from September 1st through November or December, depending on the state. You cannot harvest outside that window. You cannot harvest roots that have fewer than 3 prongs of leaves, which indicates the plant is not yet mature enough. In many states, you are legally required to plant the seeds from any root you harvest before you leave the site. You must have written permission from the landowner to harvest on private land. On public land, including national forests, you generally need a permit, and there are often strict annual quotas. On national parks and most federal land, wild ginseng harvest is completely prohibited. When you sell your harvest, most states require you to sell only to a licensed dealer. The dealer documents the transaction, reports the weight to state wildlife agencies, and the state aggregates that data to report exports to the federal government. The federal government then issues CITES certificates for international shipments. This system exists because it works. States that have enforced these regulations have seen ginseng populations stabilize and even recover in some areas. Following the rules is not just legal compliance, it is how you protect the resource that generates the income. For those who want to enter the market legally and responsibly, the process follows a clear path. Start by studying your state's specific ginseng regulations. They are published by state wildlife or natural resources agencies and are freely available online. Get any required permits before the harvest season begins. Learn to identify ginseng with absolute certainty before you ever touch a root. Mistakes cost you the plant and potentially cost you legally. Build relationships with licensed dealers early. Dealers in ginseng country are often generational businesses, families that have been buying and selling sang for decades. They know the market, they know the prices, and a good dealer relationship means you always have a buyer. Green, freshly dug ginseng is sold by the pound, but loses significant weight as it dries. Most dealers buy both green and dry root, with dry root commanding the higher price. Drying ginseng properly, in a warm, ventilated space out of direct sunlight for 4 to 6 weeks, is a skill that directly affects your income. The income potential is real. A dedicated harvest season in a productive area can yield 50 to 100 pounds of green root for an experienced hunter. Green root dries down to roughly 1/3 of its weight, producing 15 to 30 pounds of dry root. At current market prices of $500 to $1,000 per pound of dry wild root, that is a harvest season worth $7,500 to $30,000. For people who combine harvesting with cultivation of wild simulated ginseng on their own land, growing it in natural forest conditions to simulate wild growth, the annual income potential scales even higher. Wild American ginseng is more than a plant. It is a living connection between Appalachian heritage, global commerce, and a tradition that stretches back centuries. The people who pursue it are part farmer, part forester, part historian, and part detective, reading the land for clues that most people walk right past. The global market for it is not shrinking. Demand from Asia continues to grow. The regulated supply keeps prices elevated, and as more people discover that the forests hold these extraordinary opportunities, interest in sustainable, legal ginseng harvesting is rising every year. But Wild American Ginseng is just one chapter in this story. In the next video, we are going into the world of a wood so rare and so fragrant that it has been used as currency, burned in royal ceremonies, and smuggled across borders for centuries. A single kilogram of the highest grade can sell for $100,000. It grows in trees that look completely normal on the outside, but contain one of the most expensive natural substances on Earth. That plant is agar wood, and the story of how it forms, where it is found, and how people are making extraordinary money from it is coming next. Do not miss it.